limit on that heat. We the best music. Another one. DJ Khaled.
We're not allowed to replicate the likeness, the voice of these different artists. So Udio put out a little statement. Let us offer some insight on how our technology works. The biggest thing in AI music is happening right now. We have the three major labels, Sony, Warner, and Universal, all coming together to sue Suno and Udio. All right, so these are the biggest AI music generation platforms. And what they're claiming, I did the full breakdown of the lawsuits. They are substantially the same, okay? But basically what, these record labels are claiming is that these platforms went on in, scrubbed through whatever, if it's Spotify or, whatever publicly accessible ways that you can access music, went through, downloaded copies, and then trained their AI to learn, and not only learn, but that these AI platforms are now imitating. Okay, so there's a little bit of a two-pronged test here on, number one, is it okay for AI to train on human-created, copyrighted material? And then number two, from what's being generated on these platforms, are they just imitating? So meaning we use this word derivative works, right? So when you create something that is based on something else, copyright typically carries of that original thing that basically was used to create the new thing. So in my lawyerly oversimplifying kind of way, that's what's going on. The update is that our friend over at Sync My Music did a new video talking about how these platforms are generating music that sounds very, very similar, if not exact, to very popular music. And in fact, Jesse from Sync My Music was even quoted in the lawsuits that we went through together. This is pretty crazy, guys, so I figured, why don't we just jump right into it?
The major labels, along with the RIAA, have sued Udio for copyright infringement. And what's even crazier is my Udio video is referenced directly in the lawsuit. So thank all of you guys for sharing that video, liking that video, making it more publicly available to more people. You guys definitely helped move the needle, and now our voices and our concerns are included in what might be a landmark case to help get some clarity on this very important issue.
And this is a very big issue. To date, of all the lawsuits that have been filed in regards to complaints from authors saying that AI from these different companies, right, the Skynets of the world, that they're all training from the stuff that we as humans created, we have copyright protection in, and no one to date has been successful on this issue. But something I've been saying on this channel is I just go, when it comes to the fact that copyright does not carry with AI created stuff. It just doesn't, because pursuant to copyright law, the thing, in order to have copyright protection, has to be made by a human author. And I've just speculated that, in order to change that, it's going to have to be a big enough deal for an AI, one of these AI companies, right, like a sync house. We're not there. We have the opposite issue where major labels are saying you used our content without authorization. It's copyright infringement. So let's see what Sync My Music has to say on the topic.
That's not all. The labels and the RIAA are also suing Suno, the other generative AI music company that's had some interesting outputs. Let's just put it that way. Suno has recently announced that they have secured $125 million in new investment, which they say they'll use to build technology that, quote, amplifies our most precious resource, human creativity. Okay, well, remember that quote, because we'll definitely be coming back to it. Just like with Udio, Suno has built some very impressive technology here, and it leaves many of us wondering how exactly did they also seemingly leapfrog all the competition and all the other AI generative companies and models out there, like Stable Audio 2.0 and Meta's AudioCraft, which both have publicly disclosed where and how they've licensed their music data. Is Suno's AI model, the actual tech itself, just that much more impressive and capable? Or did Suno just skip all of the trouble of getting consent and licensing the music that they've trained their model with? I don't know. I have no insight as to what's going on behind the scenes over there. Because once again, Suno, just like Udio, is yet another company that is not disclosing the source of their data or if they secured licenses to train off of it.
So Udio put out a little statement. I thought I would just kind of refer back to this. So they go, today, we would like to share some thoughts on AI and the future of music. In the past 2 years, AI has become a powerful tool for creative expression across many media, from text to images to film, and now music. Fair enough. At Udio, our mission is to empower artists of all kinds to create extraordinary music. In our young life as a company, we have sat in the studios of some of the world's greatest musicians, workshopped lyrics with up-and-coming songwriters, and watched as millions of users created extraordinary new music, ranging from the funny to the profound. I've had clients literally say this to me of like, I have waited my whole life to make my dream album, and I was able to do that using one of these platforms. We have heard from a talented musician who, after losing the ability to use his hands, is now making music again. Producers have sampled AI-generated tracks to create hit songs like BBL Drizzy, and everyday music lovers have used the technology to express just a whole lot of emotion. Okay, love it, love it, love it. Groundbreaking technologies entail change and uncertainty. Let us offer some insight on how our technology works. Okay, so as Sync My Music is going to kind of talk about in this video, but also as the big inquiry, right, in reviewing the complaint of what the record labels are saying, because they are saying that these platforms are actually downloading copies, having the AI study from it. And I even checked with my experts who do app development. I go, look, I need to understand this. You work with AI in order to understand how this works. Are there copies kind of kept on file? And so it was explained to me that apparently you can have the AI learn and keep copies, right, in its memory, but it's really not necessary. Once it actually goes through the step to learn, right, it no longer needs the actual asset. But, the exclusive right of an owner under the Copyright Act is that you have the right to reproduce the music, meaning someone cannot just go and make copies of your music. That's number one, right? Number two, to then create new versions that are derivative works, right? That's where the copyright infringement claim is coming from. All right, so what does Udio have to say about this? Generative AI models, including our music model, learn from examples. Just as students listen to music and study scores, our model has listened to and learned from a large collection of recorded music. The goal of model training is to develop an understanding of musical ideas, the basic building blocks of the musical expression that are owned by no one. Our system is explicitly designed to create music reflecting new ideas. We are completely uninterested in reproducing. So this is where the claim is at, right? The labels are saying that they are reproducing, they are mimicking other people's music. We're not interested in reproducing content in our training set, and in fact, have implemented and continue to refine state-of-the-art filters to ensure our model does not reproduce copyrighted works or artist's voice, right? Because these platforms go, we're not allowed to replicate the likeness, the voice of these different artists, right? That's number one, but they go, and we've heard this before, that they are allegedly putting these different filters into place to make sure that the AI does not imitate. It's not supposed to imitate, all right? We stand behind our technology and believe that generative AI will become a mainstay of modern society. All right, so that's what they're saying. Virtually every new technology has, initial apprehension. We've ultimately proven to be really good for all the things. All right. We know many musicians, especially the next generation, are eager to use. I've seen this with our community here. There's a lot of acceptance. People are using, the AI in their workflow. They love it. In the near future, artists will compose new music along with their fans. Amateur musicians will be able to create new music genres. All right, so that's what they have said as of June 25th, 2024.
And my hope is that the lawsuit that just got filed will force some clarity on all of this. But until that day happens, the internet is going to be left to do its internet thing. So let's dive in now. Let's jump in and let's take a listen to some of the interesting outputs that we've discovered using Suno's model. So this was a Reddit post where an anonymous user shared a track he had generated with Suno's model that had a familiar sounding producer tag at the start of it. And just in case you're not familiar, a producer tag is just like a vocal trademark. It's an audio trademark that gets put into the start of a track to let the listener and the audience know which producer made the beat. And you've probably heard many of them. They sound something like this.
We the best music.
money.
Hey, what's that on that beat, ho?
Okay, let's go back to that Reddit post and take a listen to what the user generated accidentally using Suno's model. And what I mean by accidentally is that this user was not trying to intentionally get a producer tag to come out of Suno's model. He simply used the prompt mellow trap and then put in the lyrics to, surprisingly, a song from the Game of Thrones soundtrack from season 2. And this is what Suno's model spit out. The user thought it sounded familiar, and then he figured it out.
Oh boy.
It's a producer tag from Cash Money AP, which is a French producer and songwriter with credits that include Roddy Ricch, Lil Skies, Gucci Mane, among others. And that wasn't the only instance of Cash Money AP's tag getting spit out by Suno's model. Here's another one. How is Suno's model able to generate what sounds like a sampled producer tag out of its model if it didn't train off of Cash Money AP's music? Pure coincidence? And I'm really curious, how does Cash Money AP feel about hearing his producer tag coming out of Suno's model? And you know, it doesn't just stop there.
It certainly doesn't just stop there. As we saw from the complaints, there were exhibits that were attached, and the labels put together a collection of all the songs that they were alleging have been improperly used by these platforms, right? And have essentially been sampled from. And, you know, here's the thing. What we have heard is that, you know, there's already been instances where there's content ID, happening in regards to AI music being uploaded to some of these platforms. And so that the content that's being recognized or thought to be recognized in the content ID from the AI music is from other people's songs. And also what the labels included with their lawsuit was, a thumb drive that they gave to the court, which had all of these comparisons, right? So all of the ones that they were able to recreate, to generate these kind of one-to-ones, that of course is going to be used as evidence of the alleged copyright infringement.
There are some more really interesting examples of what sound like copyright-protected producer tags coming out of Suno's model. These were shared with me by one of our subscribers here on the channel named Jay, who prompted Suno and shared these results with me.
Honorable seatbelts. Honorable seatbelts. Honorable seatbelts. Taj money. Taj money. Taj money.
Yeah. What's that on that beat, ho? What's that on that beat, ho? What's that on that beat, ho? We the best music. Another one. DJ Khaled. Yeah, we the best music. Another one. DJ Khaled. We the best music. Another one.
You know, what's interesting here is that, there's kind of two things happening. One is, well, we were talking about derivative works. We go, well, if the AI has studied from songs that are owned by someone else, in this case, the record labels, and someone goes and makes a new version, right? So something that is inspired by or an imitation of, it's a derivative work, allegedly, and so therefore copyright carries. So for example, to just, the way this literally works, I make a song, and you as a producer come in and you remix my song. Your version is a new thing, but it contains my stuff as well, right? It might be my vocals, it might be my instrumentation to some degree. So the remix is a derivative work. So my ownership in my original carries into the new work. You as the producer own your new stuff that's in there. Okay, so that's kind of how it works. So we go, there's the derivative work issue and, alleged copyright infringement. But the other piece here is whether there is direct sampling happening, right? And I think, obviously, to the point of this video is that it's really tough. I don't even know what the explanation could be, right? Is it something like, the prompts were so exact of the type of voice we want it to sound a little robotico, a little like a robot, right? We have like a radio effect on it. We want a female voice. We want it at the certain note. I don't know how specific the prompts were in order to generate this, or are we actually hearing sampling?
As I'm editing this video, I just realized that many of you will probably be assuming, well, whoever prompted this probably just did it hundreds or thousands of times and literally just cherry picked all the ones that coincidentally sounded like the original producer tags, which is a fair point. However, the subscriber shared with me this track where they literally just entered a list of producer tags as the lyrics using the prompt simply as trap. And this is what Suno's model was able to spit out.
We the best music. Another one. DJ Khaled. Metro Boomin wants some more. Just like a rolling Oh my God, Ronnie.
So as you can hear, within one track, the actual voice that Suno's model is generating is changing from producer tag to producer tag. Now, it didn't get every single one of these tags absolutely correct in terms of matching it to what sounds like the original producer tag, but the point I believe stands that this model tends to try to match these prompts with what sounds like copyright protected producer tags. And if none of that was convincing enough, I think this next one really takes the cake. Here's one that I personally prompted. I tried to see if I could get Suno to recreate the Daytrip producer tag. If you're not familiar, Daytrip is a two-man producer group made up of Denzel Baptiste and David Burrell, and their producer tag sounds like this. And before I play it, notice that there's a stutter effect on the word day. Now, when I prompted it, as you can see, I did not include that stutter. I didn't repeatedly type in the word day at all. And I generated actually 10 tracks using the exact same prompt that you see here on your screen. But just listen to what happens to 7 of the 10 generations that I got out of Suno. Again, we have to ask, why is it that 70% of the time Suno's model is stuttering the word day when I did not prompt it to do so? Could it be that there's a producer tag somewhere in Suno's dataset that it is trying to reach into and recreate? So you've heard for yourself. You can be the judge on whether or not you feel that copyright protected music is within Suno's training dataset. That is what this current lawsuit being filed against them will hopefully get us some clarity on. But you guys know me, I like to ask questions. So here's a couple. First of all, how exactly is Suno's model able to pull this off? We are told by so many generative AI companies that they are not storing any data. But if that's true, then how is it that Suno's model seems to be able to generate and recreate and pull up what sounds like copyright protected sound recordings?
Again, from my personal contacts who do this, who are actively developing AI applications, what I was told is that there's essentially a couple different ways to do this, and that one, the AI could learn from a streaming kind of platform like Spotify, but it's not the best way for training purposes. The best way is to actually have a native version of, let's say, a song or a video that the AI can learn from. And then once it's fully learned, whatever that means, from the native file, it doesn't need it anymore. So it's not like something it goes back to, but that in order for it to properly learn and to remember, I guess would be, again, I'm not the expert here. That's what was told to me. So again, in the analysis of where the copyright infringement has potentially occurred, it's in the duplication, right? So we first saved a version, we duplicated the version into the AI, and now the AI is now going to go and potentially, allegedly, go and regenerate into new derivative works, or in some cases, I don't know, actual copies of the original music. And again, going back to the complaints, that is what they are claiming. Become your own record label, which is literally, if you're like, hey, I want to start a record label. Cool, I got you. Understand the entire music business. I want to set up my LLC. I want to do the marketing. It's a lot. So for example, sync licensing, for example, music marketing, it's significantly cheaper than anything you would ever get from a law firm as far as all the stuff that comes with it. And you want to make 6 figures from your music career and you want to do this for real. Like, I'm going to give you what you need.
Secondly, did they train off of copyright protected tracks that contained these producer tags? And is that how this model was able to source and reference those producer tags? And third, should we be thinking about models like Suno's as more of a modern day sampling machine, albeit on steroids, because many times It can recreate what sounds like copyright protected music in a way that masks the original sonic quality of the artist or producer tag. We can also think of these models as sampling machines on a spectrum. From one side, as I showed you in this video, you've got a direct copy like the Cash Money AP producer tag. Then moving a little to the right, you have something like one of those DJ Khaled producer tags, where Suno's model seems to be able to mask the original source by maybe merging, blending, amalgamating his voice with many others in the training data.
We the best music. Another one. DJ Khaled.
And then we move to the right side of the spectrum, where Suno's model does seem to be generating quote unquote new voices that don't sound like popular artists that we know, but are those voices basically the result of dozens, hundreds, maybe even thousands of copyright protected voices in sound recordings that have just been masked and altered using this new sampling on steroids technology? Again, without transparency or any answers here from Suno, lawsuits had to be filed. And this may explain why Stable Audio's model sounds like this. Not meaning to disparage them at all, but what I love about them is they have disclosed where they got their data from, and it was from AudioSpark's 800,000 tracks from a stock licensing site. I'm sure there's some great quality music in AudioSpark's catalog, no doubt. But is it really the same quality of music and data that is on Spotify with the 11 million artists to choose from? So I would argue that the quality of the data that's fed to an AI model is at least 50% of the value proposition.
And that is something that was argued in the complaint, just to say that the plaintiffs believe that the platforms are sweeping, downloading, getting copies of copyrighted content, and then eliminating low quality audio. So to his point, thinking that this has to be the best of the best, the highest quality, that is what is alleged in the actual complaints.
Those value as half the neural nets, the AI technology itself, and half an undisclosed source of very high quality, potentially copyright protected music that may or may not have been licensed. And the entire point of this video is to try to help convince you and show you how much value we, copyright holders, especially those of us that have commercially viable copyrighted music in the world on the internet, how much value we can offer to a company like Suno or Udio. They really do need high quality data to make a model that's worth anything. If we are truly in the midst of building new million or billion-dollar companies or even new industries that require high quality copyright protected music, is there really no room for us to include copyright holders in the profits of these new industries and companies?
And guys, I think that's the question I need to put to you, which is, if it turns out that these platforms have done all the things that are being alleged against them, that they downloaded copies of the music, they had the AI trained from it, and then maybe there's just a little glitch happening, right? So the little glitch in that the platforms just haven't been refined just yet, and so they're spitting out things that they learned or remembered, but they weren't supposed to, right? This was a mistake. I don't know if that's going to be the explanation. And this is going to get beat up quite a bit in the federal courts over copyright infringement. But the point just being of what's your feeling on it, right? So should the labels get paid? They own the music. And if you're going to go and train your AI off of copyrighted content, you need to pay. Now, we've heard investors for these platforms say, and one in particular that, said, I wouldn't have invested if, for example, these, one of these or both these companies were going and having to get these deals because it would have been cost prohibitive, right? That it would have been too difficult. And in order to properly, to his point in the video, in order to get the quality of what we need and to train to the extent that we need, we had to do it this way. I thought this video was really well put together, and as I'm continuing to cover not only these cases, but what's going on and looking at the terms of service for these platforms, because for you guys creating music, using these platforms, understanding, do you own everything? What's the copyright protection, if anything, to the music that you are creating? Can you sell what you make? And these are all questions that we are answering on this channel. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you on the next one. I'm top music attorney, Miss Krystle.